I'm Katie Spadoro. It's Friday, May 1st, 2020, and I'm here with your Small Business Weekly HR Update. On April 23rd, the EEOC issued guidance that says employers can require on-site COVID-19 testing as a condition of entering the workplace. The EEOC states that the COVID-19 test may be given if it is job-related and consistent with business necessities. The EEOC acknowledges that since a person with the virus, quote, will pose a direct threat to the health of others, unquote, an employer can choose to test employees before they enter the office or the worksite. This new guidance is consistent with the previous statements by the EEOC that noted that even though temperature checks would have previously been considered a medical exam and not permitted under the ADA, they are now allowed. Workers who refuse to undergo disease prevention measures, such as temperature checks or COVID-19 tests, may be barred from entering the workplace in order to protect other employees. Of course, employees cannot be singled out for special testing or other measures on the basis of race, sex, religion, or any other protected class. So, as an employer, does this mean that you have to test all of your employees? No, it does not. The EEOC states that you may select certain employees for the testing, but employers must have a reasonable objective basis for the selection. An example of the objective basis could be that an employer just tests employees who are exhibiting symptoms of COVID-19. Here are some other considerations if your workplace is going to begin COVID testing. If your organization retains the test results, you need to retain them as confidential medical records according to the ADA's requirements. Although unlikely, an employee could have a medical condition or an allergy that could require the employer to determine whether it can provide the employee with an accommodation, such as making available an alternative testing measure to the likely nasal swab method that they currently use. Employers should pay employees for time spent waiting to be tested, as well as time spent waiting for the results to comply with the FLSA. Employers should make sure that the tests are accurate and reliable. Take care in selecting the test that they are using, particularly in light of well-documented issues with the test accuracy. Employers will need a process for dealing with positive tests. What happens if an employee tests positive for COVID-19? When will they be able to come back to work? For example, is a subsequent negative test sufficient for them to come back? Next up, we've had many questions for our clients on how to handle layoffs or furloughs. We know, unfortunately, that layoffs and furloughs are an unfortunate side effect of the current economic state. The responsibilities during a layoff involve legal compliance, ethics issues, as well as engagement and employee branding. Failing to meet these requirements can be damaging to a company's reputation. As HR professionals, we believe that how organizations handle the current COVID situation will impact their brand for years to come. Here are some tips for how to approach layoffs responsibly. Our first tip, it's to keep layoffs fair. You should always approach a layoff at your organization in an organized and systematic way. Some acceptable criteria for determining who to lay off would be seniority, job performance, position, job title, and employee status, like contract, full-time, part-time, or seasonal. Having specific criteria will ensure that you do not lay off workers in any discriminatory manner, which would open your organization up to a lawsuit. Be sure to document how to make your selection or how you choose. Finally, be as transparent about the decision-making process as possible. A second tip is to make sure that your senior management is sacrificing too. For example, you could have your top earners take some sort of pay cut or cut out discretionary spending or something like that. Employees would expect senior leaders to absorb as much of the pain as they are. Also, employees are going to want to know that the layoffs came as a last resort. According to SHRM, laying off employees should be the last resort after reducing costs elsewhere. Third, provide outplacement services. Outplacement is a support service provided by some organizations to help former employees transition to new jobs. Outplacement helps employees through practical advice, training materials, and workshops. Lastly, be sure to communicate with your employees honestly and directly. Laying off employees is a difficult decision and a trying experience for all involved. Organizational leaders don't need to mince words or paint too rosy of a picture about the path moving forward during this time. Be careful not to make any promises of rehiring for the future. If you need help conducting a layoff, contact HR professionals at Cyber. We're here and we can help you with all of that. Lastly, a recent court case determined that an employer does not have an excuse name calling under the ADA. In the case decided on April 21st, Christy, a military vet who had post-traumatic stress disorder, was fired from her position at the Wayfair call center after lashing out at colleagues. She filed a claim under the ADA saying that she should have been protected since she had a disability, PTSD, which caused the incidents. Wayfair stated that Christy violated Wayfair's rules of conduct that required employees to treat other employees in a professional manner. The First U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals determined that her comments and behavior, which included name-calling, rolling her eyes, throwing her headset, and slamming down her phone, had clearly violated Wayfair's policy and was a fireable misconduct. Additionally, the court noted that her request for a reasonable accommodation under the ADA had followed the incidents of misconduct. The court stated, whereas here an accommodation request follows fireable misconduct, it ordinarily should not be viewed as an accommodation proposal at all. To summarize, the ADA generally does not require employers to overlook clear instances of misconduct or performance problems, even if those problems are related to a disability under the ADA. However, accommodations may still be necessary. This is a win for employers, but remember that there are certain steps that you need to be able to take to protect your business. In this case, the company had a clear, documented conduct policy. This is why CYB helps employers put together a handbook as a first step. You must have policies in place to fight these claims and lawsuits. The next step is to have an HR professional on your side and help identify any requests for accommodations and handle misconduct and terminations properly. Cyber can help with this as well. Give us a call if you have any questions on anything we discussed. We look forward to the opportunity of speaking with you.